Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you are doing great. I hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, my friends, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we discuss here on the Common Sense channel. So once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. So today, before I do this video, I want to give a disclaimer that this video is strictly based on educational purpose. That whatever I say here is to enlighten, is to educate, and is to inform. So today, and also whatever I will say here is not against capitalism. Capitalism is the engine of everything. And once I discover that, I start to understand that everything, all the systems of this world is centered, governed, controlled, and run by capitalism and industrialism. There's a difference between industrialism and capitalism, but the only difference is one is the financier and one is the engine that manufactures. So one is the money and one is the labor manufacturer. But an industrialist can also be a financier too. One is the banking. Let me just make it simple. One is the banker and one is the manufacturer, the engineers, the developers, right? These are industrialists, but it doesn't mean that a developer, an industrialist, not industrialist, engineer, a manufacturer cannot also be a financier. So an industrialist can play multiple roles. An industrialist, I think an industrialist is very powerful. An industrialist can be a financier too, and a manufacturer. You know, when I say manufacturer, I'm not talking about the labor. I'm talking about the engine behind the labor. You understand? So that's the difference between a capitalist and an industrialist. But an industrialist can be a capitalist and an industrialist. So that's the difference between the two. But a capitalist is the bankers, the money, the brain behind the industrialist. But the industrialist can also be the brain behind their own manufacturing capability or capacity. So, but we like to say capitalism because in capitalism, you can find these two people, the manufacturer, the engineer, the designer, the builders, and you can find the bankers too. So an industrialist can be in both places, but there are those that are in capitalism that just focus primarily on banking. So they have the money. You understand? They are the money. And normally the money is ancient, it's old. It's not like they're struggling to get it. It's built in the family or in the system from generation to generation. So it's not like they're going to go look for it. It's there. So yeah, so let's talk about today's topic. I want to show you how raw material, the acquisition of raw material is tied to capitalism and industrialism. And for this reason, there will never be, take it from the Common Sense channel, an end to war. War will never end. no matter what they said to you. It doesn't matter who come to power. It could be, and you can reform the entire United Nation. Mm? There will still be war. Because as long as there is capitalism and industrialism, there will always be war. Because the things, the minerals, the resources, the natural resources that fuel capitalism and industrialism, on raw materials. Without raw materials, without natural resources, capitalism will fade. So if you want to get rid of, when I talk about capitalism, I'm talking about your little small businesses in your town or your city, no, or you're in your countries, no. Those can also be capitalism, but those are just macro capitalism. They're smaller. But it don't mean that, I mean, in your countries now, capitalism is everywhere. It's not just in European countries. You'll find them in third world countries. You can find them in developing countries. You can find them in those countries that are backward. You can find them everywhere. And the thing about them is they all speak the same language. And the language that they do speak, my friend, and they understand is money. And behind that is business. They don't care much about emotion because for them, they have to, whatever they want, they must have. And that includes raw material. Mm? One of the country in Europe, people don't think Russia is part of Europe, but Russia is part of Europe. Russia is half part of Europe and half part of Asia. I think West Asia. But Europeans don't think that Russia is part of Europe because Russia has refused to share whatever is it that they have in there. When I say in there, I mean in the country. You understand? And they know. If you look, Europe, in and of itself as a continent, does not have much in terms of raw materials. And it's true. That's including Germany, England, Italy, France, Belgium. All these countries don't have the kind of mineral resources that they need to fuel their economy, their industrial basis. And capitalism is that stuff is they already have the capital, they have the money. Not all of them, but there are those that have it. Those that were involved in, the slave trade and all that stuff. Those countries, they have money from that illicit business. And the money is ancient. England alone, don't look at England like that. It's a rich country. Yeah, the money that England has is the money, the capital that is fueling America, fueling it. The engine, the oil. England still control the world when it comes to old money. They got money. They're not poor. You understand? Most of them are the toughest banks in the world. It's in England. They don't tell you that, but they don't. England will never fall because they got capital. All this country that has capital, money, will not fall. How did you think Hitler funded his war, his campaign against all those countries in Europe? Bankers, capitalists. You understand? Those are the history they don't tell you. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there. As long as capitalism needs raw material, all those countries that are the little fishes in the ocean, if you want to look up marine biology, will suffer. It's just the truth. And The thing about capitalism is the more raw material, the more money. The scarce raw material becomes, the desperate capitalism becomes. You understand? And not just capitalism, because you can have the money. If you don't have the brain behind the money, then it's not, you cannot do anything with your money. That means your money is just gonna sit in the bank. So in order for that money to grow, this is how capitalists become filthy rich, because the money has to work, whether they are on the beaches, whether they are sleeping, whether they are having fun somewhere, that money has to keep making more. You understand? How does it do it? Industrialists are the ones that make the money work, because they come in with the expertise, with the engineerings, with the know-how, with the technologies, and they are the ones that are pushing that money. They too need raw materials. Now, how do they get raw materials? So they figure out a way to make it work. So the capitalist, again, this is for educational purposes. The capitalists team up with an industrialist, and the industrialists figure out a way. You understand? And this is what the early progressive movement of this country understood, that this is a teamwork between the capitalists, the bankers, the banking system, and the industrialist, who is the manufacturing brain of capitalism. These are the two people. An industrialist can easily be a capitalist. And as a matter of fact, a capitalist is also an industrialist, because they branch. You say, okay, well, we have the money. What do we do? Let's open a factory. Let's open a bank. Let's open a manufacturing outlet here. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then they send the agent into these places to open these things. They are needed because why? They produce jobs. But if you think about the options, the choices they give you for your life to be better, then you have to think about what they have to go through, to get those things to you. You understand? Long time ago, in the progressive era, that would be 100+ years ago, children used to work in factory. People used to work long hours. That would be the ancestors of this country, the great United States. People didn't have choice. Some people work 7 days a week. If you were Black Americans, your story was different. If you're Italian, if you're German American, whatever your background was at that time, your story was different. But everyone had to work. And the union sometimes were not always working in the favor of their numerous historical cases of union revolting against cruel treatment of workers. And the progressive movement in this country, this is what I think, and this is why I think America is progressive in nature. But the reason why progressivism is not stronger like it used to be in the early 1800s is because capitalism and industrialism has been able to silence them in ways such as I would talk about, by way of hiring and positioning in people in these two political parties, that over time has silenced the progressive voices in this country. How did they do it? It's money. You understand? So I think I did say this in one of my videos. that if they cannot get you, because progressivism is loud, really loud. Progressivism is like, you go to, those mosquitoes, right? Not trying to equate them to that. How annoying it can be. And when it's like, if you ever go to third world countries where they have a bad sanitation system and there's mosquitoes everywhere and you cannot sleep, you try to sleep and you, whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, that's how progressivism is. It's very loud. Um, in this time we're talking about some 100+ years, there's no leftism. It's all progressivism. But because the generation that came out of progressivism, they saw that the generation before were slow. It's not that progressivism was slow. It's because capitalism and industrialism figure out a way to kick them out of politics, and they plant in their own politician. And over time, but even though they plant in the capitalism and industrialism, they are shrewd when it comes to business. Like, it's money, 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 money. So they put in these politicians. Understand? So now they know one of the reasons why they chose that model is because they saw that progressivism through FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, they saw that when he came, he was a progressive too. That's why I tell you, some politicians are activists and they don't forget their past. They'll continue that even into politics. They're activists in their own ranks. Some are activists from the workforce. They are part of the union. They are just ordinary Americans in the workplace, saw the injustices that were happening, and they got into politics. This was what happened during the progressive era. And when these people got into power, they came out with sweeping reforms. And when capitalism and industrialists saw this, they said, if we don't do something, these people are going to take over. And when they do, there's no chance for us. So this was the beginning of what you see today, the new Democrats. They call them liberalism. Liberalism, the birth of liberalism. When the birth of liberalism sprung, because liberalism is not American ideals. It's European. Liberalism is an European ideals. American ideals are predicated and based primarily on, my friends, progressivism. And I pray and look forward to the day when progressivism can be reborn out of leftism. They don't want to hear it because leftism is just like communism, right? To democracy. You hear democracy can be friend with Nazism, they can be friend with fascism, they can be friend with socialism, they can be friend with Zionism, they can be friend with all of these ism, but they can never be friend with communism. You know why? Because communism is resistance. So is leftism. And that's why anything that resists capitalism and industrialism, they go after them harder. You understand? And leftism is the disobedient. I don't want to say disobedient, but the child of progressivism. They don't have patience, and because of that, they're resistance. So that's what this whole thing is. So over these decades, when the American people are thinking these two, they like to say a democracy, but I've already debunked that stuff on each of my. I'm doing this video for a reason. I know they don't like it, but you have to talk about these things because this is where we are. those people who do not learn from the history are bound to repeat them. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just need to start to piece things together. Like if you can open your eyes, you see. It's very simple, like what's happening. And now let's talk about this into details. I'm going to spend some time talking about how this spread. So when they discovered that they didn't, because we're talking about, in fact, it was capitalism and industrialism that caused the Great Depression and all those progressive leaders. I mean, you can say there are women too that were very instrumental in this whole thing. I think Jane Addams was one of them too. She went on to do a great many things. There are more, Dorothy something, I remember her last name, but these were all progressivist. So when they discovered that they couldn't beat these people, they start to move towards international acquisition of raw material. Now they saw that, and then we came into World War One and World War Two. And then during these two wars, they saw that they could make more money if this is industrialist and capitalist. If these countries, especially World War One, they saw that it could make more money that way. More money how? Raw materials. So now they start to see some of the laws were changing as far as how many days you can work. Children out of the workforce at an early age into schools. Now, how do you get other people to work for you since there are laws in this country that forbids the labor force? Now all these laws are coming in for Black Americans, the 14th Amendment, all these amendments are coming into play. You understand? So now it's changing. What do? So we need to extend our reach. How do we extend our reach? We are bankers. We are engineers. We are builders. We are manufacturers. We're not military. We don't have guns. We can't start a war anywhere. But what do we have in common? Money. What do people need? Money. Everyone needs money, right? Money rules the world. So how do we get this money to start a war somewhere? To get someone to do what we want? Oh, yes, maybe we can go open a factory in South America and get cheap labor. Or maybe we can go down there, and we already got the politicians in America, in Europe, they're in our pocket. In fact, they're us, we are them. So how can we influence places like Guatemala or places like Congo or South Africa or Venezuela, Peru, Chile, Argentina? How do we do that? Let's open factory down there. Let's invest in these countries and then put our people there. And that way we can get cheap labor. Let's pay these part. Whoever we put into office, we can facilitate a politician that looks like the people and speak their language. And then that way we can go through them to get what we want. Brilliant. Nothing wrong. Everyone doing it. Same trick. The same trick that they learned from here. So we've already successfully done that here. We got politicians in Congress that are working for us, so we can get what we want from them here. But at the same time, we can get things from people in other countries that we want to fuel our engineering in this country, America, or across the globe. Since we can't get it from Russia, or we can get it from India, We can get it from Pakistan. We can get it from China. But we need other things that we can get from other places so we can get them here. So let's fund politicians all over the world. And so when we need these things, we get them. That's how it works. So with time, people become enlightened in each of these countries, and they look at the conditions, just like a teacher in Venezuela, a teacher in Peru. Look at the conditions of school system in the country and say it's not helping our people, or a doctor in any of these countries where these capitalists and industrialists are buying these politicians, and say we need change. It's the same thing here too. You in your community, you look at everything's happening and you say, what's going on here? Look at the roads, look at the school. And then you say, I'm gonna run. It's the same thing happening in other countries. And that's what Martin Luther King said. Injustice in one place is injustice everywhere. That's what he was talking about. This is the tentacles of an industrialist and a capitalist. You understand? It's how they spread. So now that guy stood up and said he's going to run. Say he's in El Salvador or in Nigeria or in Liberia or in Togo or in what they call the place, Bosnia, or in some European country, or Spain or France or Italy, and say he's going to run to change things. And then he started talking about reformative things. And these reformative things that he's talking about, she's talking about, are things that will eventually goes against the capitalist plan and the industrialist plan, their investment. So what does he do? He runs and he wins. And he decided to, or she decided to, pursue in whatever the platform was. They do the same thing here too. So what the industrialist does, he already has a foundation, or she, because industrial is not just a he, it's a she too, or capitalist. So they use their money. Say we're gonna go through the military. Now they try to do it with the military in those countries and it don't work. Then they approach the politicians in whatever countries they are. You understand? If it's France, they approach their politician. If it's America, they approach their politicians that already has policies that are geared towards capitalism and industrialism in their platform. So these are the people that will send troops to go fight. And most of the time, if you listen to our president now, Presidente, he'll tell you we're defending our interests, but never tells you what the interest is. The interest is not, it has nothing to do with democracy. The interest he talks of has nothing to do with democracy. You understand? Because no smaller fish, a smaller country is going to attack America. No, it's impossible. It's impossible. So, but when he says interest, he's talking about these capitalist, these industrialist interests, because they got to keep it cranking. You understand? This is how it works with raw material. It's business. It's not even pleasure. It's not personal. It's just business. And this is all as the medieval time when feudalism was in full flesh. You understand? When the kings, the nobles, and monarchs, and oligarchs, when they wanted to wage war, they used money or they use promises. You go over there, it's old as the Bible too, or the religious text. All that stuff you see in the religious text, especially in the Bible, these are all capitalistic, industrialist playbook. They're all of the instruments that they use to acquire things, such as land, water, material things, resources. Read. I keep telling you, I don't want to tell you something that is not there. Go read, you see. It's no God talking in there. No God. It's a man, a master being. So yeah, that's the reason why I do this kind of video. So until, I don't think it's going to change now, because the foundation is firm for capitalism and industrialism. You need them. You need them because they are the engine of all societies, all systems. Let no one fool you. There are activists. A politician is an activist. An activist, the only thing is some of them, they forget the early beginnings. But a politician is no different from an activist. That's how they started. They started making noise, just like the mosquitoes. Their noise was so annoying. But then over time, the shrewdest things about capitalism and industrialism is they offer you things. They'll offer you things that you cannot reject. For them, there's nothing on this earth, on this planet, that doesn't have a price. I don't care how someone say they're righteous, they're just. They cannot be bought. It's a lie. It's a big lie. Any human being, for that matter, has a price. And an industrialist and a capitalist are willing to pay anything for whatever they are doing. And they don't have remorse. It's all about keeping whatever it is that they have cranking for them going on. Even the people that you think are honest, they may appear to be, like, look at religion. All the things that are happening in the world today, the people that preach of morals, ethics, kindness, righteousness, you would think these are the people that's supposed to be on the front line of justice and speaking up against everything that is happening. Look at your local communities. Look at your schools. What are they doing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because why? They're all complacent. They're all part of this whole cabal, this whole institution. And there's no way, if you're part of something, you can't speak up against it. You cannot. So, and that's the reason why, as long there are, sometimes I feel sorry for those countries that when they discover a new natural resources, they announce it to the world. My country where I came from, had they not discovered diamonds in that country, maybe that would have been a great thing for us. But the moment they discovered diamond, that was the beginning. I mean, we have more resources in our country, but diamonds is we're known for that. And the moment they discovered that, that was the beginning of our tragedy. And then that diamond brought about greed, division, and then of course there are capitalists in the country. Capitalists is everywhere. Don't matter what the country is. Their GDP can be like $2 billion a year. There's still capitalists in those countries. And industrialists, the industrialists in those countries actually owns most of that GDPs that they report annually. The rest of the people are just little vendors. You know what a vendors is? Buy and sell here. That's what it is. But the bulk of the capitalists are the ones that own those GDP. Government does not manufacture nothing, so they don't own anything. Like in those third world countries, they are in charge of the minerals. And those ones that are in charge of the minerals are actually the industrialists and the capitalist puppet. You understand? So they're just supplying them raw materials. They are put in there to supply them. And sometimes they themselves are capitalists and industrialists too. Just like our president Trump is an industrialist. He's a capitalist. Yeah, and there's no way he's gonna go against his interests. You see how smart for a long time in the American experience, the American dream, as they want to call it, there's never been an industrialist at the scale as Trump in president, in the seat, in the office. He's the ultimate industrialist, or capitalist, if you want to say that. You know, Trump did not become a lawyer, doctor, and they've always had lawyers, doctors, lawyers, doctors, lawyers, doctors, and highly educated people, but never dealt with an industrialist. So that was the mistake a lot of people make. So the industrialists and the capitalists over these decades have been fighting hard to get the people in there. And the people, it doesn't mean that just Bush and the others, they were not working for the industrialists and the capitalists. They themselves came out of that place too. But the ultimate industrialist is Mr. Trump, because he actually came from that. Those other people just had like a small business on the side, you know, lucrative ones. But yeah, I mean, I'd say those other people, like all the presidents before. Eisenhower wasn't an industrialist, but neither was he a capitalist. He's a military man. And that's the reason why he was reporting. He was telling the people, because he saw that it needs to be careful. The industrialists and the capitalists were taking over. And again, I'm going to say that my video is nothing against capitalism and industrialism. At some point, you got to think about what they are doing too. Because what they are doing is just the level at which they do it. They don't have no remorse. For them, it's not personal, it's just business. Because their wealth has to keep going on for one generation to another. They can't let it dry. And because they cannot allow it to dry, they must do whatever it takes to keep it cranking. But if you think about it from a common sense perspective, you will notice that if they don't have those raw materials, if they're not shrewd with how they do their business, that means the things that you get for your own personal life, you're not going to be able to live at that standard. You want the Lamborghinis, you want the Ferrari, you want the Jaguar, you want the BMs, you want a Mercedes, you want a nice flat screen TV, you want a nice bicycle, you want a nice building house. Where do you think those come from? So those children that used to be in the sweat house in this country, once progressive movement changed all of that. The progressive movement was the movement that forced these industrialists and capitalists to implement some of the laws that you see today. Again, I'm going to say this, that there are good industrialists, that there are those industrialists that don't care. But whatever they are doing to you that you think is good here, someone is taking the fall somewhere else in this world. There are those industrialists that want to make the workplace beautiful for you, that want to make sure that you have all the luxury things, all the opportunity to good health, better hours, better pay, and everything. But just know this, as you're getting these beautiful things, someone somewhere is paying for those things with their blood, sweat, and treasure. And that's how it works. But none of those things would have come into play if the progressive movement were not active and strong. Today, they are minuscule, they are weak. If you look at Congress today, not many progressive are there. Thanks to capitalism and industrialism. Capitalism and capitalist, I don't know, but you can say it that way. Capitalists and industrialists are powerful enough to almost wipe them out and put in people that has this thing about them. All about them is, what can I get? Money, money, money. Some people have to have it. Some people will sell their mother. Some people will sell their integrity. Some people will sell their morals. Some people will even sell their own sister for money. That's what the OJs were talking about. These were wise people. You will never find a musician in today's day, in 2026, that were as wise as the ones in the early 60s and 70s. Because these are individuals that came out from the 40s. They saw what was happening. So they were tailoring their music specifically to social issues. They were also activists. They were musicians in the 50s and the 60s that were activists. Activism is what industrialists and capitalists are afraid of, because activism can lead to resistance. You understand? There are countries in the world that their ancestors' blood is baked in resistance, and they will not take anything less for what they believe in, and they're willing to fight for what they have, their resource. Capitalism is good. Industrialism is good. Anything that makes the life better. You know, remember the days when people used to live in huts, and someone came and said, let's build houses that will be befitting, better. Let's improve the roads. Let's build schools so children can learn the right information now. Not something that would lead them into other things, but something that will help make them a better citizens for society. That's the kind of education you need. Not something that you get out, either be something else that capitalism wants. Like you look at Africa, the continent with more young people than you can ever imagine, of all the continents on the earth. And yet most of these young peoples are unemployed. You know, there's not many jobs to even go around to share. And yet most of them are educated. You know, so yeah, as long there are natural resources out there to be explored, to be exploited, to be had, there's always going to be war. And all that thing you see happening in the Middle East right now, it's all about raw materials. It's all about someone's natural resources. And some countries are weak, just like what happened to the progressive movement in this country. And I think similar thing is happening to the liberalism and conservatism, because most of them have been bought into capitalism, the ideals of capitalism and industrialism, that they don't have no backbone. It's hard to say this, YouTube, because I know right now, I know you're going to flag my video, so I don't really care. But yeah, it's the truth. So yeah, the only thing you can do is, in my view, be true to yourself. Be honest. Don't be a snitch. Don't be someone working on behalf of capitalism and industrialism. They have enough people anyway to do whatever they wants to do. You understand? They already have their president. Their president is Trump. He's not working for you. Yeah, that's for sure. Like you are just like I said in my other video, what a voter does is help the capitalists and the industrialists to keep giving them the things that they want and need. That's it. Your vote is not for your life. It's not to better your life. Better your life in the sense that whatever they are manufacturing, that you are getting the dividends on. So you think now. But yeah, I I think, as I've always say, I just hope, because there are more people in this country than the capitalists. Their money cannot buy everyone, that's for sure. But if the people are inclined, if the people eyes are open, if they are informed, well informed of what's happening to them, and if they can see it, not just informed, but if they can see it like, how I see it, they're not where to be able to take back their countries. They shouldn't rely on progressive. There's not that much progressive in this country. More, I'm saying there's more leftist. And a leftist is the rebellious child of a progressive. You understand? And I think, like I said previously, is leftists should accept the title. They shouldn't feel like they shouldn't take the name calling. They shouldn't be afraid to accept that, because when they say leftists, they're not talking about European leftists. I think European leftists, they are different kind of people. And I think it's because it's in Europe, the politics are way different than the politics in this country. So they have to do things their own way. But American leftists are different. And you shouldn't allow them to, capitalism and industrialists, to label you as if you're Europeans. You're not. You are an American who is the grandchild, the great-great-grandchild of early progressive ideals. That's what you are. Take it from the Common Sense channel. And you don't be afraid. Don't think about these people calling you all these names. And you will hear, I don't hear much from liberals, but you hear more from conservative. And they will be calling them names, leftists, as if that's demon. So they equate you to demons or Satan, but you're not. What you are is a progressive that wants things to be rapid, to be fast, to be now. That's what it is. That's what a leftist is. And just know that. Don't listen to them. They try to equate you with Europe. Europe is a totally different place, totally different politics. And their politics is based on their continent. But American leftist grassroots is based primarily in progressivism, and that's what it is. And I just hope that, I know there are good industrialists, there are good capitalists that are willing to put their money into programs, into things that will help build society and make society better. And they stand with activists, like local activists in the community, to do just that. And I know that. I know that for sure. And I also know that there are those that would use that money for other things. Just how the world is. But at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's all about the acquisition of money. It's all about the making of money. And sometimes when you look at these politicians, they too fall prey to money because they need money. They want to get paid. They want to be famous. They want to be known. That at some point they forget their grassroots activism, where they came from. And it's a normal thing. You see a guy growing up in a project. You see a guy growing up in the urban setting, in wherever, rural area, humble beginning, a girl, a woman. And then once they get to that place, they started hearing all the voices. So they become famous football player, basketball players. And they easily forget where they came from, the humble beginning. It's a normal thing. Because now you look at yourself, you look at your status, you look at yourself talking to people that you would have never talked to had you not been in that situation. And then all these people started to invite you to their parties, to their surroundings. It's what happened to these politicians. They get to go to these industrialist, capitalist party and they see all the yachts. They invite them to these big gatherings. They meet this, they meet that. After a time, it goes into your head. You start forgetting where you came from. It's the grooming process for some of them. So after that, whatever they tells you is what you do. You forget old Nancy or old June, Mr. Jones, that needed his medication, that couldn't even have access to affordable drugs or affordable health care. You start forgetting about them. You start hanging out with the big boys. So the only way I think people can take back their system, not democracy now. Democracy doesn't exist. On my channel, I've made that clear. I've made the case that democracy doesn't exist. The only way you can make capitalists and industrialists do right by you is by first informing yourself, understanding their tactics, understanding their role in society, because everything revolves around capitalism and industrialists. Everything. No system exists. It's just like when you have a society highly informed and educated about who they are and their community and their country, they wouldn't tolerate that. It don't mean that industrialists are not in those countries. You go to Russia, the resistant country, communist. Communism means resistance. That's why most people demonize communism. Communism is almost like leftism in this country. That's why, because they're resistant. You understand? There are industrialists in those countries. There are industrialists in China. But the Chinese Communist government, which is resistance, does not allow them to screw around. During FDR time, when progressivism was active, they start to change. They'll change. All you need to do is use the law. America is a constitutional republic. During the progressive era, there are a lot of reforms that were put in place. It's not like the law isn't there. But the politicians that are in office, they all work for capitalism and industrialists. So they're not going to enforce anything. This is the brilliancy of industrialists and capitalism, because they have managed to close the gap. That's what this is. You understand? So the only way you can take back, if you think you have a system, is to capitalists and industrialists, they will work. They will switch back easily. They're adaptable. As long as you give them the chance to do what they're doing, they'll do it. They will follow your rules because they don't have guns. They don't have bombs. They don't have troops. All they have is money and persistency and time. You understand? So just want to leave you with this. I just hope that people, again, can understand the true nature of capitalism, industrialism. I like to add the two. And raw materials, people, and places. So that way, once you understand that, you know that whatever situation you are going through here has a direct connection to whatever is happening to other places around the world. That all of these things are connected one way or the other. And they're connected maybe one way or the other, direct or indirectly, because of you. So that whatever good things you're enjoying here, someone is paying for it somewhere. Could be in America, it could be in other parts of the world. I just want to, as I've always said, the greatest thing that could ever happen to anyone is not the day you were born, not the day you had your first car, the day you graduated from high school, college, the day you became a lawyer, doctor, none of that stuff. The greatest thing that could ever happen to you is the day you discover yourself. Because from that day on, everything, my friend, would start to make sense to you, including understanding how capitalism and industrialism work. Is one of the situations that is sad but interesting. I want to say thanks to all those people that support my channel, all those people that watch my videos. I want to thank you and your family. Hope that all is pleasant for you. Hope that you're doing great. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Have a pleasant day. Thank you.